Legacy and RWR settle their charter dispute. Settle. Now that's a novel idea. And maybe Joe Gibbs Racing is afraid to talk to Ty. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Tableau TV. Happy Monday, folks. If you missed my full New Hampshire Cup race reaction, you can click the link down in the description or click the little notification here in the upper right-hand corner. Today, we are breaking down some major news from this past weekend. But first, I want to follow up on the Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin dispute yesterday because now we have quotes. Honestly, it sounds like Joe Gibbs may have proved Denny Hamlin right. A quick recap in case you missed yesterday's race. Early in stage 2, Ty Gibbs was battling his playoff teammates Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell for 11th place. I went back and watched the in-cars, multiple POVs. On the restart, Gibbs was middle 3 wide in between Bell and Noah Gragson. Bell washed up a couple times. Gibbs doored Bell on the straightaway once. Once that battle got settled, Gibbs came over his radio and said,
"I ain't taking no more shit."
In hindsight, maybe that would have been a good time for the spotter or the crew chief or someone to kind of talk Ty Gibbs down a bit, but they never really did. Anyway, then Ty was racing Denny Hamlin. Again, I went back and watched the in-cars. He was racing Denny hard. At one point, he kind of washed up in the center of the corner. Maybe Denny had to lift a little bit. Denny was growing frustrated, radioed multiple times, voicing his displeasure with how his teammate was racing him, but Denny's message was never delivered to Ty. Eventually, Denny had enough and spun the 54 right around, wrecked him up into the fence, heading into turn 1. Shortly after the incident, Hamlin came over his radio and exclaimed,
"Are they afraid to talk to him? That's what I feel like. They're just scared of him."
Denny Hamlin and team owner Joe Gibbs spoke on pit road immediately after the race, but it doesn't sound like they were on the same page. They had different ideas of who should mediate the conflict. Hamlin told reporters, quote, "I'll let leadership kind of quarterback it however they'd like to. But obviously us, the 20 to 19, are all trying to win a championship for their family. So it's crazy unfortunate why we're racing the way we are." Coach Joe Gibbs had a slightly different perspective. He told reporters, quote, "It's always the drivers that have to handle that. They're the ones that got the wheel. That's always the case. Those guys are the ones driving the cars, and so those guys will get together on their own and figure it out." So, Denny Hamlin wants leadership to step in. Joe Gibbs wants the drivers to handle it themselves. Shoot, Denny may be right. The team may be afraid to talk to Ty Gibbs. That's kind of what that sounds like. Look, the word of the week is accountability. I still don't think it was smart of Denny Hamlin to wreck Ty Gibbs. He said post-race that he didn't mean to wreck him. It was an accident, but the contact was on purpose and he hit Gibbs in the most vulnerable spot. So, did Ty race like a jerk? Yes. I don't think he deserved to be wrecked for it. I don't think it was a good idea for Denny Hamlin to wreck his teammate in that situation, knowing the tension behind the scenes it could create, knowing the media storm it would generate, knowing that you don't need another distraction in the midst of your championship fight. Two things can be true. Ty needed to be more self-aware, be a better teammate. Denny Hamlin didn't need to escalate things the way he did. What this incident did was it put some of the lingering behind-the-scenes tension at JGR out into the open. I think many fans, and now it seems like some within the building at JGR, believe that Ty Gibbs is not held to a high enough standard. He's not being held accountable. Was he ever punished for blatantly wrecking his teammate Brandon Jones at Martinsville 3 years ago? If he was, the public certainly never saw it. Denny Hamlin here pleading for the team to get involved, to talk to Ty, tells me that he feels Gibbs is not being held to a high enough standard behind the scenes. And like I said yesterday, Hamlin lashing out on the track like he did shows there's maybe a lack of respect there. And maybe the problem is that the lack of respect is mutual. Ty Gibbs, at times yesterday, didn't treat his two playoff teammates with the respect they probably deserve. It seems like they've tried to give Ty Gibbs a longer leash which you could say he's earned by winning all those ARCA races, winning all those Xfinity races, winning an Xfinity Series championship. And as we know, Ty experienced an extremely difficult tragedy just before his Cup career fully launched. So giving him a longer leash, giving him a longer runway to figure things out, that's fair. But I guess now we're 3 years into his NASCAR Cup Series career. We haven't seen the performance improve. He's had technically 3 different crew chiefs if we include the brief Chris Gabehart stint. The results aren't great, and I think there are still some questions, especially after this weekend, about his emotional maturity. And those questions existed well before his Cup Series career. The team has tried to give him space, let him figure things out naturally, but I think there does come a time where the team leadership, it is family after all, needs to get involved, to Denny Hamlin's point. I still don't think Gibbs deserved to be wrecked yesterday, but Denny Hamlin and many others are sending a clear message. The team needs to hold their family-owned driver more accountable. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's been through a lot, but he's in the NASCAR Cup Series. You need to hold Cup Series drivers in championship caliber equipment to a higher standard. I'm sure they're meeting about it today and or tomorrow. We'll probably never hear the lengths of those discussions, but I would be fascinated to see how this is being handled internally. We'll definitely give Actions Detrimental a listen this week. Oh, could they get Ty Gibbs on as a guest? Could they hash things out on the air? Content is king, folks. Let's do it. Anyway, moving on to something completely different. Big news broke late Friday afternoon. What is it with huge news breaking at 5 p.m. on a Friday? I had dinner plans, family plans. We're finally getting around to talking about the latest developments in the Legacy Motor Club Rick Ware Racing charter dispute and lawsuit. Again, quick backstory to get everyone up to speed. Legacy Motor Club thought that they had a signed deal to acquire one of the Rick Ware Racing charters for the 2026 season. But then Rick Ware thought the deal was for 2027 and tried to back out, which is why Legacy then filed a lawsuit. Then, randomly over the summer, TJ Pusher, formerly of Spire Motorsports, announced that he was buying Rick Ware Racing outright. But now, Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing have reportedly settled their issues. Rick Ware said in a statement, quote, "I met with both Jimmy Johnson and Cal Wells recently, and we came to an agreement to sell and transfer a charter from Rick Ware to Legacy Motor Club. I believe we landed in a mutually beneficial place for both teams, and the result will be a clear path forward for us all. I look forward to putting all of our focus on finishing the 25 season strong." So, according to Rick Ware himself, Legacy is buying one of their charters, but no other settlement details were released to the public. This is where things get complicated, and I'm going to try to draw up some basic graphics, a little visual aid to help everyone out, including myself. Remember, right now, one of the Rick Ware Racing charters is being leased to RFK Racing for the 60 car. And they have a deal with RFK to essentially lease the other charter next year. But if RWR has sold one of those charters, what does that mean? Now, Rick Ware Racing did say in a statement to reporters that they will field the number 51 next year as a full-time chartered entry. Okay, so maybe they're not leasing a charter to RFK? But no, because RFK put out a statement. They say they've been told by both Legacy and Rick Ware that they will honor their previous lease agreement with Roush. Okay. So if Rick Ware's still going to have a charter next year and RFK is still going to lease a charter for next year, then what is actually changing for 2026? The answer may be not much. Jimmy Johnson, owner of Legacy Motor Club, was interviewed recently by The Athletic, and he said in that story, quote, "We're looking at hopefully having a third charter in 2027. He suggested that, it's late in the year, kind of difficult to assemble a whole race team in time for the offseason, then Daytona, Clash right around the corner. So maybe Legacy will own a third charter in 2026, but per the settlement, they'll be the ones to either lease it to RFK for that year or they'll lease it to Rick Ware Racing themselves. And then after 2026, Rick Ware will get their other charter back from Roush. Legacy can then bring their new charter in-house, open up a third team for 2027. But in that hypothetical situation, Roush, RFK, is suddenly in a tough spot. There's a chance they have 3 teams, but only 2 charters come 2027. Could they buy Rick Ware's final charter? I mean, maybe. If TJ Pusher is really buying that race team, he's been involved in numerous charter transactions. He may be willing to cash out. But there's another angle to look at this from. What if Dodge enters the sport in 2027? Might be a tight timeline, but it's not impossible at this point. They've put that on the table. I know. The idea of Roush Fenway Keselowski leaving Ford as long as Jack Roush is still a part of the team sounds bonkers, sounds like nonsense, but Keselowski now plays a major role there. He's won a championship with Dodge in the past. Just picture this, hypothetical. RFK makes the move to Dodge, and with a new OEM entering the sport, NASCAR unlocks those 4 charters they've left kind of in the weeds. Perhaps that's where Roush could get a 3rd charter from. RFK did just hire a new team president. They might be prepared to make some big moves, take some big swings. It's just a hypothetical. There's also a hypothetical but very real scenario where the charter system straight up does not exist by next year, let alone 2027. Depending on how the other lawsuit, the 2311 Front Row NASCAR lawsuit, plays out, the business model could look very different next year and beyond. So there's a whole lot of wait and see. Based on Jimmy, Rick Ware, and RFK's statements this weekend, it feels like the status quo will remain unchanged for 26. I think it'll still be 2 legacy cars, Cody Ware, Priest. The real question is 2027. I think by 27, Legacy will want to have a 3rd car. Does that mean Rick Ware bows out? Does that mean Roush has to look elsewhere for a 3rd charter? What happens then? That's the real question. A lot of unknowns, but I wanted to at least break down the big news from this past weekend. Hopefully the visual aid helped this make a bit more sense. Good for the 2 teams that they were able to settle. I'm not sure if the other lawsuit will reach as amicable of a conclusion, but we'll see. Leave a comment down below. Give me your thoughts on the Joe Gibbs Racing internal turmoil. Share your thoughts on Rick Ware, Legacy, finding peace, who fills what seats when. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for this Monday episode. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you love all things NASCAR, stay up to date on all the latest news, race reactions, rumors, and so much more. Really appreciate your very generous support as well. I hope you have a great start to your week. I will talk with you again very soon. Thanks for tuning in, folks.